All right, guys. Hello and welcome. It's evening in Brisbane where this is happening right now, but it's not where my person I'm interviewing is. We'll get to her in a second. My name's Kyl Reber and this is the COVID Conversations. It's a chance for me to have a chat to some people that I know very well, some people I don't know so well, and some people that I want to really get to know better. This person that I'm chatting to at the moment is sitting in their home with some amazing paintings behind them in Northampton. She is a long-time friend of my wife, but she has been a resident of the UK since about 2007, from Brisbane, from Dublin before then. And we're just lovely to have a chat to her and get her slant on what is happening over there, because she and her husband Phil have a lot of different interests and it's affected them in a number of different ways. But Tanya Falconer, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. How are you going?
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm good, thanks, Kyl. Yeah, good.
Tanya and my wife went to school together, and this interview, I guess, unofficially started 40 minutes ago. But now it's officially starting because they've had their little catch up. Everything's on track, so they'll get going from now. But Tanya, living in the UK, we'll get to obviously more of what's going on over there from a COVID point of view, because you we were saying earlier, like we were comparing numbers, and our numbers are but a blip compared to the stuff that you're dealing with over there and having, I guess, to come face to face with or come to terms with on a day-to-day basis. But we'll get to that more later. Okay, the barbecue intro. It's 8 p.m. at night where I'm doing this, but it's not late enough for you to constitute. I do have a beer in this case. He's just weighing it up.
Yeah, that's right. I've got my. I'm happy.
Lovely. Well, my name's Kyl. What's your name? Tell me what you do. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, Kyl. Okay, well, first and foremost, I'm a mother of two. I've got two girls. One's 7 and one's 4. And I work in a vintage shop. I work full-time at a vintage shop, but certainly not full-time at the moment. That's it really.
But let's talk about what you have done in the UK and what your husband Phil does, because he's obviously, with his line of work, is very affected. So previous to working in the vintage shop, which you are downplaying enough, but I'm sure it's definitely got its good things. And like you said at the time, previous, you're very lucky because you haven't long gone full time. So you are at least able to get something coming in, because Phil works in the entertainment industry in a number of different facets, and he's pretty much on the back burner a little bit at the moment. But what else have you done in the UK, and what does your husband do, and how does that affect sort of, I guess, where you are from a financial point of view at the moment?
Well, so I've been furloughed, so I'm getting 80% of my wage. So I just feel, just completely, I'm just blessed, really. We're very lucky, because there's a lot less fortunate people out there, during this time. So did you ask what was the question again?
That's all right. Tell me what you did prior. Tell me what you did prior to getting involved in the vintage shop. So previous to that, you were working in the entertainment industry.
Well, I've sort of taken a few years off, obviously, with my children, and so this vintage job has just been perfect. It's that nice job that I was looking for, because before that, actually, I'll go before that. When I first came to England in 2007, I moved to London, and I wanted a job in a hotel, in a 5-star hotel, because I've been working at the Stanford Plaza in Brisbane prior to. And I came across this job, which was basically an entertainment sales manager, and it's like an account manager at the hotel, because the entertainment market is so big, especially in London, especially around Kensington where I was. You've got, Hammersmith Apollo, Shepherd's Bush Empire, lots of big venues. And so it was my job to get the musicians to come and their entourage to come and stay at the hotel, because it was big, if not bigger than the corporate market. And and it was incredible. You know, it was an incredible job for a single person, like myself at the time. And, you know, it wasn't a 9-to-5 job. It was,
No.
you know, you did lots of going to gigs and events and restaurants. And I basically had a ticket to London. It was just, you know, because I think living in London can be quite depressing if you've got a low paid job or you don't have any friends. So yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool. And then from there, I started working on tours, booking tour accommodation for bands that were coming through. And then I was working for the Australian embassy, helping out with gigs for events and things at Australia House. So I was a bit of a point of contact with some Aussie people that would come over, you know, just wanting a gig and so forth, so to give them a gig at Australia House.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's sort of then, of course, I met Phil in the sort of 60s scene. We're really into 60s music. And he was a promoter at the time. Oh, he still does a bit of promoting now. And what else? We had Matilda in 2013. And I guess, of course, my mum got ill and we went back to Australia for a while, back and forth. That's when you really notice the distance between, you know, you know, when your family becomes sick. And then came back, and then just London just didn't seem, I thought, we're never going to be able to buy a house in London. It's just extortionate prices, especially in Hammersmith where we were. So and Northampton looked quite attractive because Phil's family's here, so the support and so forth. And so we've got a lovely house here. And yeah, this is where we are.
Helen and I just saw your backyard earlier, and I was actually surprised to see an English day and not a cloud in the sky. Like we're not used to seeing that sort of weather when we hear of England.
That's one of the things I love about this country is you've got the seasons. You know, you really seasons. And you know, to be honest, the weather has just come good in the last few weeks, but it's 22 degrees today. So,
yeah, right. Yeah. God, I think it's almost, God, you'd be about the same as what we were today. Tell me about the music industry. So you'd still have friends, and we'll talk about that more when we get to the current situation question. But you'd still have friends working in the industry, I would say. And like you said, Phil has his finger in a lot of pies still in that industry. Obviously, like the Australian music industry, you know, people I know, and obviously just reading how affected it is. British, like the UK music industry has obviously got these, you know, probably I guess on a global scale, maybe got a little bit more to it than Australian does. Is it really, you can just see how much the industry's been decimated by all of this, live music in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I have taken a big step back from music. I tend to just be a bit of a gig goer these days. But, you know, I mean, I just think the economy in general is just, it's just been slayed. I don't know to what extent. I feel until we get back out there to see. Yeah. But as far as Phil goes, you know, he books a venue. There's all your pubs and venues. I don't know how they're going to keep afloat. And obviously they said they're going to sort of stagnate the lockdown with us sort of going back to school and work and forth. Venues, I mean, they talk about Christmas, but I don't know, because, you know, getting such large amounts of people in one space at one time.
Oh, absolutely. But I guess something again, yeah, because like I said to you off camera, I think this is probably one thing that people are really keen to hear from someone actually living in the UK, because obviously, and again, we'll talk about it more afterwards, but just that, yeah, we were talking about I guess it's a terrible thing, but we were comparing our deaths and our cases and this and that earlier. Like I said, we're just not even in the race compared to you guys. But it's something we'll talk about later on. So tell me, Tanya Falconer, what is something you are passionate about? You've seen a bit of the world. You've lived in a different country for a number of years. Surely that's given you opinion of something you're passionate about. Tell me.
I've got to be honest. I think gigs, live music has been, and I guess anyone that knows me will probably know that it's been my life as a teenager. It's what I'm really passionate about. I love going to gigs with friends. I love going to gigs on my own. It's just where I feel like I can really express myself and just, you know, depending on the gig, you know, shake my head around and let off a bit of steam.
So here's a question. If there is such a thing, favourite all-time gig or favourite a performer you'll go and see and you know that it is impossible for them to do a shit show?
Okay. Need so many gigs, that's the thing. My favourite, I don't know, it's a big
someone
call.
you see it come up and you, like you said before, book the babysitter, we're going. It's going to happen. There is no second thought into going to a gig of theirs.
Well, I've seen Nick Cave play a few times, and we actually we have tickets to go and see him in Birmingham, and I think the gig would have been last week, and it's been postponed until next year. We've also got tickets for Tom York at Hammersmith Apollo. I'm sure that will be postponed as well. But yeah, look, Nick Cave was incredible because he's just, the way he brings everyone on stage and the way he's just so, it's even though there's thousands of people there, it just feels like a really intimate show. I don't know, Carl, I've just seen so many.
What would be a performer that, I guess, because I mean obviously Nick is Australian, and I'm sure you stand there watching gigs with a little bit of Aussie pride every now and then, just going, he's with me, we made him.
I tell you, one was just a few weeks ago, just before this all happened. I went to London, and there was a Roland S. Howard tribute at the Royal Festival Hall. Are you familiar with Roland S. Howard? He was in the party, and I knew that Nick Cave would get up and sing Shivers, which is the song that Howard wrote. I just knew he would, and he did, and it was a surprise, and it was incredible. I mean, it was a goosebumps moment. It was incredible, and all those members like Mick Harvey and Genevieve McLaughlin and all the people that were playing, JP Shy, they were just incredible. I felt really with all these English people around me that just knew all the music, and it was cool. And we all went out afterwards after the show, and everyone was chatting, and it was just wonderful. And that was a gig I went to on my own.
I think the Brits have semi-adopted him anyway, haven't they? Really, or
Nick Cave?
Yeah. What's a performer that I guess you took a punt on, and you're glad you went and saw them? Like, when I didn't think you'd be that good, and now they're just in your staple of listening.
And now they're what? Sorry.
Now they're just a staple. Like, they're like they're in your go-to playlist. Someone you went, I didn't think I'd really go for that, but now I really, really like them.
I'm funny with music. I know what I love and I know what I hate.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Yeah.
I don't know, because my mind's just gone blank.
What about I'm trying to think of some questions. What about a band that you maybe worked with? Like, what would be sort of a band that was a pleasure to work with, that was just such good people? And I would ask you what was a band you didn't like to work with, but I don't want to badmouth any performers. But
well, I went to see.
What is a band you went, you guys were just a pleasure to work with?
Okay, because I did go to a lot of gigs that I wouldn't have normally bought a ticket for through work, because the tour managers and the band, and they'd say, come to the gig tonight, we'll put you on the door, and things like, like Journey was a band that I Anthrax. I actually went and saw Anthrax when I was pregnant with Matilda. I was literally like 6 months pregnant. They were supporting Motorhead. Who else? I saw the New York Dolls a few times. They became friends of mine.
Now
true, true.
let's go back to Motorhead, because I have some mates that will be very pleased to hear this. There are photos circulating of you with none other than Lemmy. So you stood in non-social distancing boundaries with Lemmy on more than one occasion. Is this true?
Yeah, I did. I used to kiss him all the time, like
Oh my
every time.
God! I have one mate in particular that
I
will hear this.
avoid his, yeah. No, I
Oh.
love Lemmy. He was lovely, and he became a friend too. Because one of my jobs at the hotel was to welcome guests, and Lemmy, when he came to London from LA, where he lived, he would always stay.
Yeah.
That I worked in, so I knew I'd always arrange for a bottle of Jack Daniels to be in his room when he arrived. He always had the same room. It was a smoking room facing the park. The curtains were always closed, had to be closed for him. Lots of little, he was a real creature of habit, and a lot of people are, and that's why they would employ somebody like me, because it was really just those little details, so that these artists would continue to come back, and it became a home from home. So we were having a lot of renovations done at one point, and Lemmy was just getting really pissed off. He'd bring me and say, "Can you move me, or can you stop the drilling?" And so I'd go up and see him, and he was just really playful. Like he'd say, come in," and he'd actually invite me into his room and say, "Come and listen to this." And he played me one time. He played me his solo album that hadn't been mastered yet or something. And he gave me a JD and Coke and a Marlboro Red. And we sat together, and I sat on his bed. He sat on a chair, and he was playing air bass, and I was just like this. And it was just a memory I'll never forget. And I asked him if I could wear one of his hats. That's right, because we had to move him to a different room, and so I was helping him. And that's right, he put one of his hats on my head, which I sadly didn't get a picture of. That would have been cool. But just so down to earth.
Yeah.
Just lovely, lovely gentleman.
It's funny. Like I have the similar occurrences of working with artists, and yeah, I say to a lot of people, they are like everyone else. They're just a person. It's just all it's not how we interpret them. It's a lot of the time it's how they interpret themselves that is their downfall. But when I was in LA last year, I made a point of going to the Rainbow, and I went to Lemmy's Lounge and ordered a beer just because I bloody can. So yeah.
Was he there?
Oh no, he wasn't there.
Normally always there, wasn't he?
Oh, how good would that have been? When did he pass away? How long ago was that?
When I was in Australia, I think. So
a couple of years ago. It was only actually a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know how I found it. I was just doing my mindless trolling through YouTube. I came across Dave Grohl's speech that he gave at Lemmy's funeral, and I just went. I actually shared it on Facebook. I said, "When I die, I want Dave Grohl to read my eulogy." That was just amazing. But yeah, it definitely would have been an interesting industry for you to be involved in. But yeah, something we'll talk more about later on. Tell me, what's on your bucket list? I know you've mentioned a lot of people's bucket lists just then, getting to wear Lemmy's hat, but is there something else?
I just think bucket list is funny, the word bucket list.
Do you think this, because it's interesting, we've had a few people really not misinterpret, but it's been interpreted a lot of different ways. So I guess you interpret it a certain way. So tell us about what you think of
where I am now, at this point of my life, with my girls who are my world. What is really important for me, because my mum, who passed away a couple of years ago, she was from Peru. She was from a place called Arequipa in Peru. I'm so passionate about Peru. I love it. I love that side, that half of my heritage. And I love the food. There's actually a Peruvian restaurant. There's a few Peruvian restaurants in London. Are there any? There used to be, I remember there was one in Brisbane, in South Brisbane. I don't know if there is now.
I'm not sure.
We always go see that when we're there. The food's beautiful. I want my girls, I want to take them to Peru, and I want to show that side of their heritage, because it's just beautiful. You know, I did the Inca Trail up to Machu Picchu, chewed the coca leaves, you know, did that. I'm not an extreme person. I don't want to jump out of a plane. That doesn't excite me or interest me. But yeah, I want to take them there. I just want to eat lots of Peruvian food and just it's just the colour, the music, something quite mystical and spiritual about
We've had a lot of in the bucket list side of things. Again, it's a loose term, but we've had a lot of people indicate it's been really probably two major things. One's been travel, and one has been heritage. There was another interview I did with an old friend, and he's Torres Strait Islander, and it was very similar. He wants to take his grandchildren back to Torres Strait to show them where, you know, this is where your grandfather was born, this is this.
so meaningful. Really
is that something that when everything, I guess, eases, whenever that is that something that you will maybe bring forward? Like, did you plan to do that in X amount of time, but now you're like, well, I want to bring that forward a bit, and I want to do it as soon as we can?
Yeah, I think so. Well, actually, I was going to take Matilda to New York in July. We've got plane tickets to go to New York. She was going to do. She does her dance class on a Saturday, and she was actually going to do this performance in Broadway. It sounds wild. But that's obviously been postponed until next year. And I've got some of my Peruvian cousins living in Washington DC, so I was going to try and coincide that trip to go to DC as well to see them. But obviously that's definitely not happening now. So yeah, maybe I might, when we do that trip, I might try to sort of, and maybe even just if we can, because obviously it's quite expensive to ferry, you know, a family of 4 across the world. But maybe now more time we might look into making it more of a trip. And then of course there's Australia. I just want to come back there too.
I guess something, again, I keep saying something to come back to. I guess there's so many questions I have for you in particular with the whole way the world is, and like you're an expat living in the UK, and you know we're watching stuff on the news only tonight. And we had a conversation earlier, like what the fuck is with Boris Johnson's haircut, but we won't get into that. But it's just we see things and we go like you were talking before. And I guess we can branch into the next question because I want to spend a bit of time on it. We see it, and to us, it just doesn't look real. Like we were just talking before about our deaths, our total deaths since, I guess, this has become a pandemic. You guys, like I said, that's, God, what is it? Would it be even, not even 20? Oh, God, 1%? Like
31,000.
Like, how do you sort of hear that feel? Like you said, you've sort of made a point. Like you said, Phil's been your media liaison officer. But do you see those numbers? And it'd be a hard thing, obviously, with everything that's going on. It'd be a hard thing to avoid. Like 31,000. That's just not even. Like you said earlier, where are those people? Where do they? Is that number? How do you come to that figure?
That's what we're being told, and. You know, I just think, who are these people? You know, it's and you certainly don't want to desensitize yourself to it because you know it's just horrendous. And like I said too, you know, I think just yesterday there was 4,000 people infected. How are these infections happening? I feel so cut off from everything. I feel like I'm in my little bubble here. I just feel we're just so lucky. We're just so lucky. We should have gone in lockdown a lot sooner. And how long? It just feels like a big dream. It really does. And sometimes you just got to pinch yourself. Is this actually happening?
Yeah.
When you go to the supermarket yesterday, because I'm the one that's going out. Apart from when we go to the park or you know, we go for a bike ride or something.
So just to confirm, at the moment, you can do, so the time of this recording, essential travel, i.e. supermarkets, medical assistance, exercise is allowed. Is there a maximum period you can exercise, or just if you say I'm exercising, it's okay? Or?
Yeah, not that I I know of. Not that I know of, because I know things have lifted off for you guys. You can go on picnics, you can go 50 kilometres away. Yeah, no, none of that.
But and then like you were saying earlier, so now a few of the larger retail places have opened. Is there this little, because we're seeing it even from a Brisbane point of view, the floodgates kind of opening, and like I'm like you, I don't want to go there even though now I'm allowed, because I'd rather just give it a little bit to, you know, the dust to settle. So what? So are you seeing that sort of thing is starting to happen now, even though there's that many cases still happening? Are people disregarding it because they just want to get out of the house and just go somewhere?
Yeah, there are a lot of people disregarding it. When I was in the supermarket yesterday, you know, you've got your markings 2 meters apart, and this woman came like stood right behind me, literally, and I was like, oh, hello. But there's quite a morose vibe, definitely, in the supermarkets. It's just, you know, because you just wonder what's going on with that person. You know, have they lost their jobs, or it is a very morose vibe. It's not a nice place. But then you've got, like, yesterday was BE Day, like I was explaining to you, where everyone was celebrating the end of the war in 1945, and a lot of people, just the patriotism, and a lot of people were outside the front of their houses with you know, the Union Jack bunting, having parties, dressing up. It was lovely. And also people are just being really kind, really, really kind. You know, you look at these Facebook groups of just all these acts of kindness for people, you know, older people that are home, that haven't been out, like my neighbours haven't been out in 7 weeks. We're all having a glass of wine together, all at the end of the garden. We're all talking more, you know. I'm hoping that this will all continue. All the exercising that everybody's doing. Everyone's out exercising, and the sun's shining as well, which makes it a lot.
Make you feel.
Imagine if it was winter, it'd be so depressing.
How does Northampton compare to, like, say, London or something like that? Is it not as, like we said earlier, you're glad you're not living in London at the moment. So Northampton, you're only about an hour out of London, but you're enough away to sort of be a little bit out of the main front line.
That's right. We're not all on top of each other. You know, that we're in houses. You know, there's a lot of flats, and it's just so overly populated. You know, London is. So, and you know, I did see some pictures where it just looks like a ghost town.
Yeah.
You know, the big landmark.
What do you think? I guess, you know, obviously how you've been affected is obviously a lot different to us and the homeschooling. But you know, it's funny, like we were talking earlier. The most commonly word said in your house at the moment is mummy. My most common word at the moment is dad. It's funny talking to someone like, you know, God, what is it, like an 18-hour plane ride or something away, and those problems are still very much the same. So it's in a way, yes, you've got these massive numbers or whatever, but the stuff from where you are and where we are, it's much the same. It all just comes to how you want to manage it, really, doesn't it? How is homeschooling going? Is wine does it start at, you know, as soon as the school bell goes, so to speak, or how does that go?
Yeah, we do we start off with a Joe Wicks workout. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I am. How does that go?
He want to play the game, and it's all come on, and you know, we have started sort of going to the park a bit now, just to sort of mix it up a bit.
Yeah.
But it'll start with Joe Wicks, and yeah, no, we've definitely got a routine. But just Eden, she's 4. She's so young. She's in reception here. What's that prep over there?
Yeah.
She's one of the young ones. She turns 5 in August, and she just doesn't want to play the game at all. But you know, I was telling you, we've got a potting shed out the back, an old decrepit potting shed, and she is loving planting seeds, and you know, watching them grow, and we're doing a lot of baking and lots of art. Just let them paint the fence out there. And Matilda's been really good. She's been a joy. She's really interested in her work. But, you know, it's just we are all together and it is very stressful. And I do hear Mummy about 800 times a day. Mummy, I'm hungry. 5 minutes later, Mummy, I'm hungry. What's for lunch? Just had lunch. No, but yes, you know, it's just constant. So it does create a bit of anxiety. That, like I said before, you know, thank God for wine of an evening.
Is there like, I mean, we're starting to progressively go back with school, and 25th of May is the date proposed that we are meant to go back to full school for you guys, but there is no indication of any of that at the moment.
I think we were talking about the end of June, potentially.
And if you have, how does that, do you sort of think that's, I mean, again, not to get involved in a political conversation, but do you sort of go, with everything that's going on, are you sort of go, wow, that just sounds like, now that's not that far away, is it?
Phil and I were talking about it this morning, and we think maybe it's too soon because it's the infection rate that's the issue here. You know, lots of people are getting infected still. I don't know how. It's just, yeah, I don't know. But with the kids going back to school, yeah, look, I don't know. End of June. But then you see, Boris was meant to do a big speech on Thursday, and he's postponed it until Monday. So I wonder if that was just to get the bank holiday and everything. They like having their weekends. They like to postpone these things. You know, let's see what he says.
Yeah, we were just seeing that on the news. He's making an announcement. What is it? It's Saturday night here, so yeah, it would have been Monday. Tell me, what do you think, I guess, moving forward, like getting back to the music side of things, you said Phil's just kind of getting whatever he can, like scratching a bit and that sort of thing. Is there, you know, like the UK, I mean, I've followed live music since I was, you know, young, but things like, you know, like you said, your Brixton Academies, your Hammersmith, all those places, they would, even though they're these long established venues, they're iconic. Like for them to
aren't they all kind of supported by big beer companies and things, though, those venues?
But like just a London, to not be able to go and have a beer in a London pub at the moment, like
just the little pubs, the little venues that I'm more concerned about.
Yeah, that's right. How do you, is there something that like, because I was talking to you earlier about our music industry is kind of not taking matters into their own hands, but they're trying to help each other out and that sort of thing. And I had a friend of mine who he's been a techie. I've known him for years, but he said like for the first time in 37 years, he's had to join the dole queue to actually get on because, you know, he had a full roster till the end of the year and now he's got nothing.
Yeah.
It's obviously a much similar case in the UK, but as I said, your scene,
because those tours generate so much for so many people, you know.
And that was one reason I wanted to speak to you, because like your role that you had in the music industry, and like you said, Phil's got his hand in so many pies. It's not just the artist and it's not just the venue. It all flows downhill, and that will be something that I know in Australia will take a long time to recover. In the UK, it's probably a much larger scale.
Yeah, because where I was, all the record companies were surrounding the hotel as well, so they were all accounts of mine too. You know, all the record companies, you know, your band, your entourage, your roadies, all of it. Yeah. It's. I've just got no idea. It's scary to think.
What are you, like you were talking before about like people playing in the street a lot more and that sort of thing, you're noticeably seeing that. Do you think moving forward, what do you think is there something that you'll take away from this, or something you hope people will take away from this and maybe change?
Well, because we haven't been able to buy things, you know, just consumerism, I just really hope that, you know, that this time, and I'm sure it has been, it certainly has for me, just seeing what's important, you know, and stuff. I mean, just going to those Primark and those big places, all the fast fashion, and just tons and tons and tons and tons of it all. It's just unnecessary, you know, and that's why working in a vintage shop, you know, all of our stuff is it's secondhand, you know.
Yeah.
And actually Northampton itself is not a very wealthy town.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the big shops have already closed down before this pandemic started. House of Fraser, you know, Marks and Spencer's, or, you know, the town centre is all charity shops really now. I don't know, we've got enough, yeah, just consumerism. I just hope that just, yeah, it's not important.
You were saying before, and we were talking about it as well, like, you know, for our Anzac Day, everyone came out on the driveway, and then for VE Day, you know, there was all these little divisions or that. Is that something like, I mean, I don't know how long you've lived in your house at Northampton, but do you find you've gotten to know your community a lot more now through all these sorts of things? Because we, like the house we're living in, we haven't lived in for terribly long, but because we're out walking all the time and I'm down at the park doing PTs all the time, I feel like I've lived in this community for like 10 years. I just seem to know everybody.
Yeah. I don't know that I've met anyone new. We have the most amazing neighbours on either side. We get on really well. We socialise together. And all the way up the street, and there's all sorts, and everybody's just always says good morning, or, you know, and there's a care home at the end of the street. So I see a couple of people through the park, and I'll stop and ask them who they are, and, you know, everyone's really friendly. That's one of the things I love about this place. It's funny because when I'm at work, people say, "Oh, you're from Australia. What are you doing here?" They just they just can't fathom why an Australian would be in Northampton.
Yeah, right. We were talking prior to the interview that we've had a conversation in the last week or so about you are exploring the possibility of moving to Australia, back home. Is it something?
Oh, be careful.
Is it something? Hey?
No, it's cool. No, come on.
Is it something that this has now come a little bit further to the front of your mind?
Sure. There's just, you know, even when it comes to just driving down the M1, I mean, the UK is just so overpopulated, and you just feel like a number. And I have become, I used to be fearless, and since having children, I have become a little bit fearful, you know, when it comes to driving. Big lorries going past, and it's all just trying to merge into, it just all terrifies me.
Yeah. And,
you know, it's one of the things that we were talking about with Brisbane and Australia, you know, like it really is. I have, when I went back there, I look at it with different eyes now, especially having children. It's such a beautiful place to bring up children. I said I could drive blindfolded. I know the streets of Brisbane so well. I think it's always been on the cards that we will eventually go back there. But, you know, now, I mean, with all these rates, I mean, are things going to go back to normal? I don't know.
Yeah. Have you sat in the last 7 weeks, have you ever just sat down and gone, like, I miss home? Like, I would just love to go home for a bit.
Yeah, definitely. It's just the familiarity and the people, my family as well, you know, and those beautiful beaches, and
Oh, you guys have got great beaches. They got heaps of rocks, and the water's like freezing cold. And
I remember being in Brighton last summer and wearing my thongs and just having all the stones going in down to the water.
That's not a beach. That's not a beach. What do you think? I guess, and probably the last question, if there was something like from someone like yourself, you're an Aussie living in the UK, going through a proverbial, you know, I guess a little bit, like you said, surreal, bit of a nightmare. Us Aussies, you know, like there would be, you know, certain people already complaining about the restrictions that we've got already, and we've got this and that, and God, we've had this many deaths, and like you said, you're talking thousands.
Yeah.
What would you say to an Aussie that's having a whinge about their situation?
Get real. No, I don't know. I don't know, because yeah, it's I just think you guys are so lucky. It's always been a lucky country.
I mean,
you're lucky.
You're
really lucky, and you're so spread out. And when you actually think of the population of Australia, the population here, it's just.
I mean, what's the
People
population
love
of
Australia. People love it. People just love it over here. They just, like I said, they just don't know what the hell I'm doing here. Why aren't you there? It is amazing.
It's funny, isn't it?
You're lucky.
It's it's definitely something. Like I said, talking to you prior, and just even watching a little bit of news tonight about the UK, and you guys definitely don't look like you're out of the woods just yet, but you seem like you're handling it, and it seems like things are ticking, and I guess all by proportion, we're all just limping through it as best as we can. But look, Tanya Falconer, it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
You too.
Even though it took a little bit of convincing to get you, but it was all good. We got there.
I've been for 7 weeks not really talking to anyone apart from my family or my close friends, and it just absolutely terrified me. But anyway, it's fine.
Well, that's what we said earlier when you said, how come I'm doing these things? I said, that exact reason. People are just liking to maybe focus on another face or just hear someone else's story about it all. And again, like you said, from someone like yourself, living in another country, getting asked by the people whose country you're living in, why the hell aren't you back in Australia? It's just interesting to get your perspective on it. So I thank you for your time. I do hope you guys, and it'll be all right, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I do hope you guys will be okay. I'm sure it will be. And if the planets align and we see you back in a Brisbane scene anytime soon, my shout, and we'll go from there.
Without a doubt, definitely want to see you in the flesh. We're going to hang out for sure.
And there's one final thing I wanted to confirm. Ellen wanted to just make sure that I didn't talk too much like a bogan. Did I sound very much like a bogan or like an Aussie, or was I okay?
Oh, you sound awesome.
Ah, see? There you go. I'm all right.
What are you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, well, she says don't talk like a bogan. I say I am a bogan. So
I'm a bogan. You should hear, the people that I work with at work, they all speak in New Zealand and Aussie accents, absolutely take the piss out of me constantly. They love Chris Lilly. They love all the characters. We have a lot of fun. They love the Aussie accent.
It's like, it's like we were talking about Nick Cave. Get your own bloody celebrities.
I don't sound English, do I? I don't sound English.
Oh, you've got a little twang, but I have nothing to compare it to. But yeah, I would definitely speak, if I was in London, I would speak to you and go, you're not English. Something.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I won't say you sound Kiwi. That'll just insult you. One and the same. They're doing great too. Tanya, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I hope I see you in the very near future. Guys, if you like what you hear or saw and you'd like to see more, you can go to my YouTube page. You can you can subscribe, and you can listen to some of the past recordings. But I'm going to stop recording this, and I'm sure my wife wants to speak to Tanya at least a little bit more before we disembark. And that's all I got. I'll catch you later, Tanya. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.